What's up, grinders? It's your girl Lexi Gavin here, and I just got done playing a cash session at the Wynn Casino in Las Vegas. Definitely had a lot of interesting big hands where I was put to the test and had to make some kind of loose calls on the river. So hit the subscribe, follow, like, let me know in the comments how you would play these hands differently. And yeah, let's check the hands out. Okay, so here we have 10-9 of clubs in the small blind. So here the hijack opens it up to $15, the cutoff and the button call. Now I really like this spot as a call. We are getting a good price. We have good implied odds when we do smash the flop. Now you can consider 3-betting this too, versus the late position opens, but I do just want to take the lower variance line and give it a call. So the flop is pretty amazing for us. We smash it, we flop the stone cold nuts on the queen, jack, 8, 2 clubs. We also have the redraw just in case our straight wasn't good here. So we are pretty happy here. So I decided to check here to the aggressor. However, the hijack does wind up checking this back, and the cutoff puts in a bet of $50. So he's betting pretty big here. The pot is only $65 at this point. He's betting $50, so I'm just like, this is a good sign. I don't see him betting here if he didn't also smash this flop. I can see him having a lot of 2-pair combos like queen jack suited, maybe jack 8 suited, possibly queen 8 suited, but I can also see him having some open-ended straight draws like king 10, or, you know, maybe he has a hand like ace queen or king queen that he didn't 3-bet pre-flop. So there's a lot of good stuff that he can have here. He also might have the same hand without the redraw. So if he has 9-10 here, then I certainly want to build a pot here in the event he decides to stack off on the flop and we have great equity with our redraw. So he goes 50, the button folds, and we decide to bump it up here to $130. Now in hindsight, I think because it's such a draw heavy board, I could have gone a little bit bigger. I'm almost pretty certain we're going to get a fold from the hijack anyway because he did not decide to continue on this flop, and now we're making it pretty difficult for the hijack to call in the event he does have a hand like ace queen or king queen that he decided to pot control on the flop. So really, I'm looking at the cutoff and the cutoff alone. Let's get in a pot together. Let's gamble it up. Please have a set. He certainly can have a hand like pocket 8s where he flopped a set and is probably willing to stack off considering it is such a draw heavy texture. I also think that maybe he is flatting jacks at some frequency pre-flop and not 3-betting them, so there is a chance he has jacks. I would assume he would be 3-betting pocket queens pre-flop, but you never know. Okay, so when we bump it up to 130, unfortunately, everybody folds. But you know what? It's never a bad day when we get to take down a pot on the flop. The reason I chose going 130 is because in the event he did have like nut clubs or something, if he had like a hand like ace 5 of clubs, I didn't want to scare him off. I'm pretty certain he wouldn't have folded to a 150 bet anyway, but just to really reel him in, I wanted to go for that 130. Give him the illusion that he might have some fold equity if he decides to come over the top on me. But whatever, he folded, all good. So here we are with 10 of clubs, 9 of hearts in the big blind. The hijack opens it up to $15, folds to us, and we are on a super high from flopping the nuts with our 9-10 last hand, so we decide to give it a call. Plus, we are playing pretty deep, so the deeper we are, the more playability we have, and the more luxury we have to calling wider. So we give it a call, and we're going to see a flop heads up. The flop is 3 of clubs, ace of diamonds, 9 of spades. Now we check to the aggressor, and the aggressor continues with a half pot size bet of $15 into $32. Now, we're definitely never folding this. We are never calling pre-flop to fold a flop like this. Now, of course, he can have a lot of ace-x in his range, but he's also going to be continuation betting this board with pretty much all of his value hands and all of his air. So if he were to flop, a hand like ace queen, I can see him giving it a bet. But if he also just completely flopped nothing, like king 10 off or queen jack suited, I think he's going to continuation bet here too, considering how dry the texture is and how much we are going to have disconnected with this flop. But we did hit a pair, obviously, so we are going to give it a call. I would see no merit to raising here. I definitely don't like raising. If we raise, we're going to get him off all of his bluffs that he might continue betting on the turn. So We give it a call. The turn is the 8 of diamonds. We check, and he checks back. Now, if he's thinking, wow, the 8 of diamonds is probably a better card for her than me, I think that his check is pretty smart. Now that he checks back, it makes me believe he does have some kind of showdown value, but, you know, he could just be completely just giving up on his hand. So we're going to see a free river, which is the ace of hearts. We check, and he bets a measly $10 into a $62 pot. So I am definitely not going anywhere, especially now that the board has paired the river. Not really sure what this bet is saying. I think it's either a block bet to just get us to fold all of our missed hands. In the event we decided to call the flop with a hand like Queen Jack of Diamonds that has that, you know, backdoor flush and backdoor straight equity, then we're probably just going to have to give it a fold. So it's kind of an interesting bet, but unfortunately for him, his showdown value is just a little bit worse than ours, and we take it down when he shows us the 9-6 of clubs. So another 10-9 win for us. Okay, so it folds to me in middle position. I have 5 of spades, 5 of hearts. I decide to raise it up to $20, and the hijack min 3 bets me. So he clicks it back to $40. Now to me, this kind of looks like a weak 3 bet. It kind of looks like a pot sweetener. I really don't think that it's anything too strong, because if he had like ace, king, or aces or queens, he would probably raise bigger, something to like $60 or $80. So I don't think I can fold for $20 more, so I decide to come along for the call. So the flop is king of clubs, jack of spades, 3 of clubs. So there is a flush draw on the flop, and I check, and the hijack puts out a bet of $25 into a pot of $87. Now, to me, this c-bet size is fishy. I think that if he had a hand like ace king or aces or king jack, I would assume he would be betting bigger to protect his equity from flush draws and straight draws and any other pair that I might have. So I don't think that he has anything too strong. So I decided to call, and we are gonna see a turn. Now the turn is the jack of clubs. So now the turn checks around, which is very interesting. So when the turn checks around, now I have a lot more information about his hand. So now I know it's very unlikely he has a jack. It's very unlikely he has a flush, because I think a jack and a flush would continue betting on the turn. And maybe he has a under pair like pocket tens or something. Or he could completely have air considering his weak sizing. Again, I really don't think he has a king, because I think a king would have sized bigger on the flop. So now the river comes out, the jack of hearts. I have rivered a pretty crappy full house. And I decide to do something crazy here, and I decide to bluff my full house here on the river. Now, I know this sounds crazy, because like, why wouldn't I check with my showdown value? And the reason is because I wanted to put pressure on his weaker full houses to fold. Again, I know that sounds crazy, but I think with all the better full houses out there, I think there is a chance he folds jacks full of sevens or eights full of sevens or something like that with the king out there. I know it's ambitious. I know it's hard to bluff a recreational player, but we decided to go for it. So we bet $100, and he actually winds up calling with pocket queens. I kind of couldn't believe it. I really thought, he was weaker pre-flop. Kind of an ambitious play, but we decided to go for it. Okay, so as you can see, we have king 10 off in the big blind. The low jack position opens to $15. The button 3 bets to $45, and I fold this hand. Now, I know you're probably wondering, Lexi, why are you telling me this? You just folded. I promise you I have something interesting to say about it. So here we go. So normally I would consider turning this hand into a cold 4 bet, meaning I would re-raise the button's re-raise. So the reason that I decided not to here is because the low jack opponent had been pretty tight, and the button I hadn't seen 3 bet once yet this session. So I didn't want to just put in a 4 bet here when I believe my opponents to be pretty tight and the button hadn't put in a 3 bet yet. But if the If the low jack opener had been raising a lot of hands and the button was 3-betting like crazy, I would consider putting this into my 4-betting range. I like using a hand like king 10 off. It's a little bit too weak to flat the 3-bet, so I wouldn't just call the big blind here, but I like 4-betting it because A, we have some nice removal effect. We have a blocker with the king, so we block their chances of having a hand like ace king or kings or king queen or something like that. You know, we're blocking a lot of their calling range. So anytime you're holding a hand that is blocking their calling range or blocking their 5-betting range, then I like to use that as a 4-bet. Now, I wouldn't necessarily do this if it was under the gun open. Like if under the gun open and under the gun 1 had 3-bet, I'm probably just gonna snap fold this because they are gonna have stronger ranges, right? When under the gun opens, he is raising about 10 to 14% of hands. And when under the gun 1 re-raises the under the gun position, he's going to have an even stronger range. So I probably wouldn't mess with the early position raises that much, but versus the late position raises, I think that we can apply pressure on them. They're going to have wide ranges and we can take down all that dead money in the pot without having to see a flop a lot of the time. And if they 5-bet, then obviously we just fold. And if they call, then hopefully we hit some fireworks. Okay, so here we are in the small blind with 10 of clubs, 10 of diamonds. It folds around to the cutoff. The cutoff raises it up to $15, and we decide to go ahead and bump it up here to $50. I definitely like 3-betting this for value, especially versus a cutoff range who is going to be raising pretty wide in the cutoff. So we go 50. We essentially could have gone a little bit bigger considering how deep we are. So anywhere between like 50 and probably 65 would be fine. So the cutoff gives it a call. The flop is king of clubs, 5 of hearts, 3 of spades. Now I do remember the cutoff being pretty sticky, meaning he was calling a lot pre-flop. So I thought that I could c-bet this and I would get a lot of calls from him with like middling pairs, maybe some good ace highs, maybe a hand like ace queen of spades would give it a call. So I did go ahead and c-bet and I went for $60. Now in hindsight, I could have gone a little bit smaller just because it is a dry texture, and if he doesn't have a pair, wouldn't want to go too big to disincentivize him from calling with some overcards. But again, because he's sticky, because he likes to call a lot, I went for the $60 bet. The turn is gin for us. I love it. This is the best, obviously the best card in the deck for us. We have now hit middle set. I am certainly not afraid of him having pocket kings. Of course, he is going to have trapped with it sometimes, but I think pocket kings would either 4-bet us pre-flop or raise us on the flop. So we are pretty confident with our hand. There is $225 in the middle, and we go ahead and bet $140. He goes ahead and gives it a call. Now this is, again, such a good turn card because now I love the fact that there's a king on the board. The fact that he's calling flop and turn really makes me believe he does have a lot of kings, and he is going to have a lot of kings in his calling range pre-flop, right? A hand like ace king might call, king queen, king jack suited, king 10, king 9 suited maybe even. So there is a lot that he can call with, and in the event he did decide to float us with a hand like ace deuce of hearts or something, he has now turned a flush draw. We don't block the flush, so I mean it's not, you know, super likely he has hearts, but it is possible. Now, having said that, the deuce of hearts on the river, if he did have hearts, then we are going broke, but I am definitely not going to not value bet this on the river. So, 500 in the pot. At this point, pretty certain he does have a king. Again, not very likely he has hearts, but if he has hearts, so be it. We decide to go for a big bet here to get value from king queen, and he makes the fold. So, all good in the hood. He probably had a hand like king jack that is just not going to make that hero call with, in a 3-bet pot to a $400 bet. I didn't think that he would fold considering the fact that he was calling a lot pre-flop and post-flop, but he was disciplined enough to make the fold. He also very easily could have had a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 8s, pocket 7s that just couldn't take the heat. If you guys are enjoying these hands, please hit that subscribe and let me know in the comments if you like these hands, what you would do different, and all that jazz. Okay, so here I am in the low jack. The under the gun one player limps, and I decide to raise it up here to $20 with 9-7 of hearts. Now, a fold here is totally fine. I don't like limping behind and playing a double suited gapper out of position, especially considering there's so many more people left to act behind me. So I decide to isolate and raise it up to 20. A lot of people want to join the party. The cutoff calls, the big blind calls, and the limper calls as well. So we are 4-way to the flop. The flop comes out 4 clubs, 4 diamonds, deuce of diamonds, and I decide to check this back. Now, I would consider c-betting here if there was like 1 heart on the flop, if I had some kind of backdoor equity, but I really have flopped nothing. I know that I have 2 overs, but there's just a lot of pairs in the cutoff and big blinds range. The big blind can also have some deuce combos. And so I decide to not bluff c-bet here and hope to hit one of my overcards on the turn. Maybe that'll be good. So the turn comes out as 7 of spades, exactly what we were hoping for, and the big blind decides to bet $50 here. Now, I thought for a little bit, and I decided to make the call. I'm not totally loving my hand, but because there's a lot of diamond combos that the big blind can have, and remember, the big blind can always have more flush draws than we can because they're going to be calling with a wider range of suited cards than we're going to be opening, right? Because the big blind is always going to have like those king 3 suited combos and you know, maybe some like queen 8 suited combos, whereas we're really not going to be opening those in the low jack position. So I decide to call. The river comes out the 3 of spades, and the big blind decides to bet $125 into a pot of 182. Now, I think for a little bit, I don't love that 5-6 gets there. But I do think that there is a chance that the big blind is going to be bluffing some brick diamonds at some frequency. I think that if I had 1 diamond, I would probably make a more disciplined fold because when we have a diamond, we're blocking his chances of having some flush draws. But because we don't block any diamonds, I did decide to make the call. And fortunately, I was right because he did have 9-6 of diamonds. So we got to scoop a nice little pot there. Okay, so here we are with ace-5 off in middle position. I decide not to raise this up. We're just going to throw it away. Too hard to play. Out of position post-flop. Don't like it. Okay, so there's a limp in middle position. The cutoff raises to $10, and I decide to 3-bet this to $50 with ace-ace, pocket rockets. We raise to 50, and the cutoff comes along for the call. The flop is 3 of spades, 3 of hearts, 6 of clubs. Pretty safe board for us. We're really not worried about too much. The cutoff really shouldn't have any 3s in his range. We block really the only 3s that he can have, which would be ace-3 suited, so I like that. And if he had any other 3, then that would be pretty dirty. He definitely could have some like middling pairs, maybe like 7s, 8s, 9s, something like that. But he is also going to have bricked this flop quite a bit, like his random like queen jack suited, king 10 suited type hands have completely missed this. So I think we want to put in a small bet here. So we go ahead and we bet $35. Now, the reason we're betting so small is because, like I said, he is going to have missed this flop quite a bit. So we do want to incentivize him from calling with some overcards. Maybe a hand like queen jack of hearts would come in for a call. Whereas if we had bet somewhere about half pot or 60% pot, then those type of floats are going to be folding on the flop. So luckily our opponent comes in for the call. The turn comes out the deuce of spades. We're, again, pretty happy with this turn card. The only hand that really this turn card improves is a hand like 4 or 5 suited, which I don't think he really has too often. I don't think he should be calling a 3-bet with 4 or 5. I mean, he's certainly not going to be having any of the offsuit combos of 4 or 5, so it would have to be the suited combos of 5-4 suited. But other than that, this is a pretty safe turn for us. I don't think he's going to be calling the flop or pre-flop with a hand like pocket deuces or anything like that. So feeling pretty good about this turn. So I decided to bet $95 here. I do think that we're going to get another call from some of his overpairs to the board, like maybe pocket 10s, 9s, 8s, something like that. But unfortunately, he does make the fold. Okay, now brace yourself because this is a really fun hand versus a really tilty opponent. So here we are in the low jack. We have ace jack of diamonds and we raise it up to $20. Now, a super, super tilted player raises it up to 60. Now, he has been 3-betting me like every time I open. It was super weird. So he was 3-betting a lot, and honestly, I was fed up with it. Now, I could choose to 4-bet this, but I decided to just call pre-flop. I didn't want to 4-bet and then have to fold away my equity if he 5-bets me, and I definitely didn't want to get shoved on. So decided to just call with the ace jack of diamonds. So heads up to the flop. The flop is ace of hearts, queen of clubs, deuce of clubs. There is 127 in the pot. We check to the tilty opponent and he bets $40. So really only betting a third of the pot here. This doesn't really look like much. I think if he had a flush draw or some kind of straight draw, maybe a hand like king jack of hearts or something, would have been c-betting bigger. He could have some ace combos, but I'm pretty confident in our hands, so we decide to give it a call, especially because he was tilted and could, just be range betting this board. So we call. The turn is the 3 of spades. There is now 207 in the pot. We check, and the cutoff bets again. He's betting like a cowboy now. He bets 150. I don't think we're going to go anywhere. Of course, we're going to lose to ace king and ace queen sometimes, but other than that, I think we're in pretty good shape. I think that his flush draws would continue betting here and all of his junky garbage. So we call, and the river is the 7 of spades. We check, and our opponent bets $350 now. So we have a decision now. We definitely are going to be paying him off every time he has better ace. Like I said, ace king and ace queen. I don't know if ace king would take this line. It might. I think ace king would probably bet bigger on the flop to protect his equity from flush draws and, to charge me more for my draws. So I thought for a bit and I decided to make the call. Again, this player was 3-betting a lot and it seemed like he was just having one of those days. I was right and really happy that I wound up making this call because he wound up showing queen 9 offsuit. So put the mental note on that one and was super excited that he decided to reload. Okay, so here we are in under the gun +1 position. We have ace of spades, jack of diamonds. Decide to raise this up. I'm liking my table, super fun and not very aggressive other than that tilted player from the hand before. So really not worried about getting 3-bet off our hand too much. So therefore I like opening it up in early position. We get a call from the cutoff and a call from the big blind. The flop is 10 of spades, 6 of spades, 4 of hearts. Checks to us, and I decide to throw out a c-bet here of $30. The reason I am c-betting here is because we have the ace of spades blocker, so we're blocking their chances of having the nut. Well, obviously they don't have the nut flush draw because we have the ace of spades, but we're blocking some of their other spade combos they can have. In hindsight, I wish that we would have bet a little bit bigger only because I really did want that fold equity. If we did get a call from our opponents, our plan is to continue betting on any spade turn. We're telling our story that we have that flush draw, so we are going to represent if the spade comes on the turn. Plus, we do have some overcard equity, so if we do bet and get called, we have about 24% equity to hit our overcards in the event they are good when they do get there. Remember, we have 3 outs for the ace, 3 outs for the jacks, so 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24% equity. If that confuses you, check out the link in my bio. I do have a link to some poker coaching funness that will teach you all of the odds and equities. So we decide to throw out about a 30. Again, wish I would have gone a little bit bigger, but it did the job and we got the folds. Definitely what we want to see when we only have ace high. Okay, so here we have another fun hand with ace jack again. We keep getting aces and ace jack this session, which, hey, I'll take it. We get to play another pot with the tilted player. Super excited about this. Let's jump into it. So it folds to us. We open to $20 and the hijack calls and we get 3-bet by that tilted player in the cutoff. He raises it up to 80 and we decide to give it a call here. So we do decide to call the 80. I don't necessarily want a 4-bet here. The only incentive to 4-bet would to squeeze the hijack out, which I really don't think the hijack has much of anything because he didn't 3-bet me pre-flop. But I am cautious raising versus a tilted player. I don't want him to spaz shove on me or do anything crazy. So decide to just call. We are heads up to the flop. The flop is king of spades, jack of diamonds, 5 of diamonds. So we flopped middle pair, top kicker with some backdoor equity. We have some backdoor straights, backdoor flushes, all kinds of good stuff. So we're certainly not going anywhere. There's 187 in the pot and he c-bets $60. So he's going about a third pot here. He kind of did something similar in the last hand. I'm not going to let him get by me with this, so I do come in for the call. The turn is the ace of diamonds. We have now hit 2 pair, totally loving it. Of course, we are gonna be drawing pretty thin to some flushes, but I also don't really think he has many flushes because I think his flush draws would have sized bigger on the flop. So we check and he bets 200 now into a pot of 307. So we definitely have a little bit more of a decision to make, but I certainly don't see us going anywhere. We are going to lose sometimes when he does have a hand like ace-king, but I do think he is going to size bigger with ace-king. This hand, looking back, is actually pretty similar to the previous hand versus exact same player. So, yeah, he's definitely got some patterns here. So we do give it a call. The river is a 9 of diamonds. Now we're pretty much hating life. We lose to all of his diamonds, not loving it. We check in the hopes that he checks back, which he totally does, and we wind up scooping. He just mucks the hand, and we get to take some more of his chips. Okay, so here I have king jack off in the under the gun position. The table was starting to get pretty dicey with 3 bets, and the aggression was definitely kicking up, so I decided to just open fold it. It's okay to fold king jack offsuit sometimes under the gun in an aggressive game. Okay, so under the gun player limps and it folds to us in the small blind. We decide to bump it up here to $20. We could go a little bit more. We could have gone like 25 being that we're pretty deep and out of position, but I decided to just raise to 20. I was a little bit distracted by the big blind on my left who was pretty much making soul reads on my life and where I'm from, and it was freaking me out and I got a little distracted. So anyway, we make it 20, under the gun calls, and the flop is ace, queen, 6, 2 diamonds and a club. We have no diamonds, but we do have middle pair top kicker. Now, we could bet this for value. I don't think the under the gun player is going to have anything too strong. I don't think he's going to have any really strong aces because he just limped pre-flop, but he is going to have some weaker aces in his range. So I decided to check, and he checks back. So the turn is a 3 of hearts. I decide to check again. Now we could consider betting for thin value here on the turn, but I decided to see what he does on the turn, and he checks back. The river is the deuce of spades. Now I think enough is enough. Time to go for some thin value here, hoping to get called by some worse queens, maybe like queen jack, queen 10, maybe even a 6 or some kind of deuce or 3 type of combo. Who knows what he has when he limps. So we go pretty small here. We bet $20 into 45 just to really try and get that thin value, and he does make the fold. I wouldn't have wanted to go any bigger because I think a bigger sizing is going to get all pairs under a queen to fold. So he probably just had nothing, and we took it down. Okay, so here we are under the gun with king of clubs, queen of diamonds. We raise it up to $20 here. The button calls and the big blind calls as well. So there's $62 in the pot. The flop is queen of hearts, 4 of spades, deuce of clubs. Small blind checks, and it is on us to decide if we are going to continuation bet here and if we are not. So I look at this board and I say to myself, really, there's nothing to worry about. We're pretty certain we have the best hand here. Not really afraid of our opponents having anything that beats us other than a set of 4s or a set of deuces. Otherwise, I don't think that they have any 2-pair combinations. Maybe the big blind, if he's flatting too wide from the big blind, could have something like queen 4 suited, queen deuce suited, or maybe 4 deuce suited. But in hindsight, he should really be folding a hand like that, especially when we open 4 times the big blind. I also don't think that they have a hand like ace queen because I would assume that they would be 3-betting that pre-flop. So feeling pretty safe, really nothing to worry about. And we are gonna see bet here about $25. Yep, we go $25 into 62. So I like going small here. The reason being is that, again, because it's unlikely they have anything that they can call us with, that we want to go for a small bet to incentivize them for calling us with a wider range. What do I mean by that? I mean, when we go smaller on a pretty dry texture, especially when we block top pair so heavily, we want to bet small to get them to call with some ace highs or some king highs or some, maybe a hand like pocket threes or something. So we go 25, hoping to get those thin value calls, and we actually do get a call from both of our opponents here. So now we got to say to ourselves, okay, what do their ranges look like? Everything in poker tells a story. So every bit of action gives a little bit more information on your opponent's ranges. So when they both call, let's say to ourselves, okay, what kind of hand combinations are they calling with? So when we see bet small, like we said, they are going to have some wider floats. So I can see the button or the big blind maybe having a hand like ace 3 of spades or ace 5 of clubs or some kind of backdoor equity type situation. Of course, the button can have a lot of middling pairs in his range, like pocket 7s, 8s, 9s, things like that. The big blind can also have those hands as well, but I do think the big blind is going to have a wider calling range pre-flop, so I'm more inclined to think that maybe the big blind has, maybe some of those backdoor equity type hands, or maybe he has some 4 combos like 4-5 or ace deuce suited or something like that. He also could have a hand like 3-5 suited, but that would be a pretty wide call pre-flop, and I'm not sure if I love it. So $137 in the pot. Big blind checks. We decide to go for the gold again. We are a little bit worried about the big blind having some deuces in his range. I don't think the button is going to have too many deuces in his range unless he has like ace deuce suited. For sure, he would have to be suited. And even when we continuation bet into 2 players, there is a good chance that both of these players might fold a deuce, because when we see bet into 2 players, looks pretty strong. When the button flats, the big blind might say to himself, my deuce is probably not good here. I'm going to give it a fold. So I think that the deuce on the turn is a pretty safe card for us. So I think we can comfortably continuation bet here for value from middling pairs and worse queens. Maybe a hand like queen jack or queen 10 will give it another call. So we decide to go 80, and we get folds from both of our opponents. So they decide to surrender, and we scoop down the pot. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdowns of these hands. As you can see, I was definitely put to the test a few times, but wound up a winner, which is always good. So if you like these hands, please hit that subscribe, like, follow, come join my poker family. I love giving you guys some insight on the poker lifestyle, and I also love helping teach you and hope to help improve your game as well. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.